Smart devices and computer screens have been blamed for the increased risk of children and adults becoming short-sighted. Researchers at Anglia Ruskin University think that this could mean that by 2050, an estimated 5 billion people will be short-sighted. Well, Samer Hamada is a consultant ophthalmologist and corneal surgeon and medical director of the eye clinic in London and joins me now. So this almost, corroborates that old adage that my grandma would say, don't stare at the TV too long, your eyes will go square. Is this really a factor that we're sort of squinting at print on screens so much that we're actually forcing ourselves into myopia?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me today. It is really a concern because we know that year on year, there is more people getting short-sighted or myopic. I think you can call it myopia epidemic. And there's a lot of voices raised a few years back saying, actually, look, we have so many people getting more myopic. The studies showed, and the one you mentioned, actually, it's a very good study because actually it's a huge, big work on 3,000 papers looking at the risk of myopia changes in those group from the little children, age 3 to the 33 years of age. And they found actually, if you're using those small devices, the digital devices, your risk to have a myopia increased by 50%. If you use both digital devices, smart devices, and computer, your risk is almost 60%. So yes, what our grandma used to say is true. It's proven true, actually, because we see now more and more children becoming short-sighted. So it's really a concern, and a lot need to be done to try to minimize that risk or try to make the acceleration of myopia less. And as you said, half of the population of the world will become myopic by 2050, which is quite a scary number, actually.
Yeah, I mean, in a developed world country, as the United Kingdom is, I mean, how bad news is this? I've had laser eye surgery. I was, one step down the ladder from getting a free dog and got myself lasered, which has been amazing. But in a developed world country where we do have access to opticians and we do have, pioneering techniques, how problematic is this for public health?
Okay, that's a very good question because actually the American Academy of Ophthalmology looked back, that was last year or 2 years ago. They found actually over the last 50 years, the number of the people becoming myopic in the Western world is becoming 42% of population compared to 20% 50 years ago. So it's double the number. Obviously, the last 10, 13 years, we're having more access to those digital devices, phones and pads. We're using our eyes more. So we're straining our eyes. We're making our muscles work harder. If you practice you practice your muscles to work, yes, you get a big muscle. But when you make your eyes work harder, your eyes get longer and bigger. And that means you're becoming more myopic. So answering your question, yes, going to see your optician, having laser eye surgery, correcting your short-sightedness or myopia does not stop myopia progression because this environmental factor do exist and all the time you're doing it. So if you want to stop myopia progression, you have to look at our habits, what we do, and work around them. And as I said, 42% now, that figure will gonna be double maybe in 2050. In fact, in China, 90% of children are myopic. That's a scary number. The figure is slightly less in the Western world, but we're heading there.
So, if people have got kids or, maybe they're always on their phones themselves, what sort of advice would you give to try and potentially reverse some of the damage we're doing to our eye health?
Okay, well, we have to think adults and you have to think children. We're talking about children now. Children, younger one, less than 2, they should not look at screens at all. And the American Academy recommend up to age 5, they only allowed half an hour a day on digital screens. When you get older, you can allow more and more hours, but still, should be more than 2 to 3 hours a day. That's in older children. Now, there is an issue here because a lot of education now moved to digital devices, pads used and tablets in schools. And I think that's where we need to have more awareness and educating the community, the organization, schools, that actually those children should be allowed less time on screens and be more outdoors.